Hi, I'm Curious Cass, and this is Curiosity Junkie. Today's guest is the Gut Goddess. She's here to teach us about gut health and how important it is to have a healthy gut-brain connection. Please welcome Jamie, the Gut Goddess, Trevathan to the show. Hi, Jamie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's so wonderful to see your face. Thank you so much for coming on. This is exciting.
I am so excited about this, and I love that you're doing the podcast and just reaching out. I love it.
Yay. Well, I wanted to talk to you. I know you've kind of gotten into, I believe it's called functional nutrition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
talk to me
Yeah.
a little bit about how you got into that. And I love that you have a site called The Gut Goddess because I think that's fantastic.
Yes, I will. I really want to celebrate, well, everyone, but mostly women is my niche. And so celebrating women coming into their power and understanding how to have the goddess in them, to awaken the goddess in them. When that to me, like the gut piece, it's your gut intuition, your gut health, it's all rolled into one. So,
Yes, and it's amazing. I work for a chiropractor now, and I find it amazing how important. And I have never thought about my gut being connected to my brain ever, not once. And I've never really thought about what I'm eating. I became vegan, and then I started thinking more and more about it. And you have to be conscious of: are you getting all of the right foods to get the right vitamins and nutrients? And so I became more aware of it, but I still wasn't eating like super healthy in any way, and I wasn't supplementing at all, like at all. I think I did
yeah.
some B12 because I wasn't sure I was getting that. But other than that, I hate to admit it, I really wasn't. So I started working for Dr. G. He is an adamant believer in gut health and gluten free and just so many of the things that you had already been talking to me about. And I was like,
Like most people do, like, no, don't tell me that.
right, right. And until you really do something and you find that it impacts your health, and you go, oh, I get it. Like I really get it. And
Yeah.
so I have found it to be super helpful to go gluten free. And I don't have issues that say I can't eat it. And so I have moments where I fall off the bandwagon. But I tell you, when I do, I feel it for a couple of days. Everything's just out of whack in my gut. I don't feel 100%. And so I want to talk a little bit about your journey to getting here because you have a great story that gets you to why this really is important to you and that you know how beneficial the gut brain connection is.
Yes. And I basically grew up having digestion issues. I didn't know that, at the time. I just thought this was normal.
Hmm.
Talking about gut, it gets kind of personal, and that's okay. So grew up having digestion issues. I mean, really only went to the bathroom like once a week, and I didn't know any better. And I don't think our parents
Wow.
necessarily,
Okay, wait a minute. Like that's a thing.
yeah,
We're gonna, okay, let's just put it out there. We're gonna talk about poop. Because,
definitely,
right? I mean, we're adults. We can talk about poop.
yeah.
I think if I didn't have a bowel movement at least twice a day, I would be completely out of whack. Like that would just no, I can't function. So
Oh, I
okay.
can't now either because now, but I didn't know this, and that's interesting because I love to work with parents and ask them about their children, and that's one of my passions is to help young people through this process to prevent autoimmunity or to prevent chronic illness as a child. Like the parents, like my mom didn't realize I wasn't going. It's like, I mean,
You don't
she
talk
feels
about
so
it.
bad now. Yeah, she was like, okay, she's in the bathroom, but she wasn't asking, did you take a poop today? She wasn't being like, what exactly is happening in the bathroom, lady? You know, she's like, are you brushing your teeth and washing your hands, but not like how big was your bowel movement? You know, and
Right.
so it was a major problem. And so I grew up not knowing that this wasn't normal. And now I look back and I see all the things. And I also was raised a veterinarian. And that is really interesting because I also didn't notice supplement with B12, like you mentioned, which is
Yes.
huge. And so that kind of later on really, really created an issue with my own health. And so, you know, let's see, moving on to my 20s. I mean, it was just so bad. I always had issues, and I had a lot of self-esteem problems around it that, you know, gut brain connection. Like, I mean, to where I thought, will I ever have a relationship? Because it's like then you get anxiety, you know, like, okay, am I going to have to run to the bathroom? What's going to happen in there? Is anything going to happen? Is this guy going to be like, what's wrong with you? Or I had to like, or even friends, you know, just friends and family members where they were like, you can't come out. Why? Like, you can't be a part of this, you know, this event.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. I mean, it's just, there's so much that goes on with that. And I've always had a fascination with nutrition though. So even growing up, I think I innately knew what goes in is supposed to come out, but it wasn't coming out.
Yeah.
So I think I had this fascination with nutrition and how the body works. And so I always wanted to go to school for nutrition. So in my early 30s, I moved to San Francisco, and I went to one of the best holistic nutrition programs in Berkeley. And I was so excited. And I started to feel like, why is my brain not working? You know, like I'm learning all of this stuff. I just felt like I have foggy brain, like I should be remembering things that I'm not remembering. And I went to doctors, two different doctors, and their answer to me was, you're just getting older. And I was like, excuse you, I'm 32. You know, it's like, I'm not just losing my mind because I'm getting older, and I'm not even old. I'm not accepting this. Yeah, I was like,
Right.
I am not accepting this. And so in nutrition school, I started to learn what to eat and eat differently, and was fixing my gut health, but I felt like it wasn't fixing my brain, and things were
Right.
getting. So I learned about functional medicine, and this was like, I mean, this was about 12 years ago, and I learned about functional medicine, and I was so excited. And so I went to see, thank goodness I was in San Francisco where, you know, functional medicine doctors were already a thing, but I
Right.
starting
Yes.
to pop up. But I went to one, and she was so amazing. You know,
Mm.
functional medicine, functional nutrition, you know, it's all about what's happening, getting to the root cause, going deeper. You know, they look into an investigative, it's an investigative process, you know.
Yes.
So she helped me discover that I had an autoimmune disorder that is called pernicious anemia. And it's basically that I have antibodies against what's called intrinsic factor, which is in your gut, the ability to absorb vitamins, especially B12. So like, and I
Wow.
felt that, like I was, when I eat, the vitamins just start getting to my brain. Like I am eating like really well, and
Right.
it's just not getting to my, and that's true. That's exactly what was happening. So basically, that started me on my journey of like really looking into functional medicine. And I found a course called Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, which is amazing because I
Mm.
still wanted to be a nutritionist. I thought, well, should I go be a functional medicine doctor? I mean, now that my brain works, the world is my oyster, you know?
Right.
But I decided I didn't want to do that. And I wanted to stick with functional nutrition because I wanted to do the coaching piece, and I wanted to have a
Mm.
client that and take them from point A, you know, all the way through their health journey. And a lot of times the doctors just don't have, and sometimes they do, like I know you know, but sometimes they don't have the time to spend 6 months with you.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm really passionate about is helping somebody along the way through their journey, because it's a lot of mindset work. And that's, you
Yes.
know, tell you to eat this, but like you said, people don't want to hear it. You know, like they don't want to hear, I can't have all of my favorite things. And a lot of times it's not even their brain saying that. Like I help them realize, guess what? That's your gut talking. You
Mm.
know, that's your microbiome talking. Like you're craving all of these things. You're not craving it. Your gut, your microbiome is craving it, you know, and so helping them through that process.
Yeah. Okay. So when you were talking about your brain being foggy, um, and then clearing up, what was
Mhm.
that like for you? Because I think I'm actually in that process right now. I've noticed that I have a lot of the brain fog, and I think I've had it for a long time and just didn't identify what it is. Like I have trouble
Mhm.
remembering, like short-term memory, and over the years I
Mhm.
think I've just put it up to I just don't have a good memory. But it's literally the food that I've been eating that is messing with my brain. Plus, I have for years worked in upper management that has a stress level that keeps my
Mhm.
brain on like stress mode,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
it's firing. And literally, I did a brain scan at with my doc, and he's like, "You are what we call brain on fire." He's like, "We have got
Oh,
to get everything like calmed down." So
yes.
I'm working on it. And then when you came up and it said gut goddess, and we started talking, and I'm like, yes, this more people need to know about this because you don't hear about it from a doctor. You will not hear about it from a medical doctor unless they have a nutrition background. They don't spend time in medical
Right.
school on the nutrition piece. And nothing against medical doctors. I'm not bashing
No.
anyone in that industry. My daughter in law is a PA, and she's amazing and she does amazing work. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that nutrition is not something that is taught in medical school, or if it is, it's like this big. And so
Yes.
I just, I'm with you. I think stress, anxiety contribute to our gut health and our brain health. But I'm curious, like, what did you notice, or what were some of the things that you did that really made a difference for your brain?
Well, it was mind blowing.
I love it.
Okay, so
Yes.
the thing was the B12 because since I had pretty much no B12 in my system, it was at such a low that it was almost like paralyzing. And once it took about 6 months, so I have to get shots weekly of B12
Wow.
because I can't absorb it in my gut. So it took about 6 months to actually feel normal, and it was so wild that once I felt normal, I was like, I can't believe I was living like this for so long. Like my brain, I could remember things. Um, I wasn't like losing words, like I would remember talking. I mean, it probably was about a good 10 years that I could remember of feeling this new normal that was not normal. And also feeling like I could walk straight again because that's a B12 thing. It's neurogen. I mean, I was like a whole new person. And so for me, the biggest impact was the B12 because it was hindering other vitamins and nutrients from getting absorbed as well. So once I start seeing that, I was almost upset. And I hate to say that, but I was. And that was part of my passion fueling to help other people. Because I was like, I can't believe I went through 10 years of my life, like my entire 20s, without a full brain,
Yes. Oh my gosh, right?
functioning power, you
Yeah.
know. But the gut brain connection it's so powerful, and really it's easy to do. Like I think, finding out food sensitivities that can be affecting it. Also what's going on in your microbiome. Do you have any opportunistic bacteria? I mean, all of that can be affecting your brain. And your
Right.
gut and your brain are 100% connected. So, and then also making the mindset shifts like I was talking about. Like you really have to get in there and open and realize. Like I was just talking to a client yesterday, and she was like, I had to tell her, okay, for real, you got to go gluten free. I just had to remind her, it's not your fault. Like she's like, I can't, when I look at a salad right now, I just want to bleh. Like those are her exact words. And she's like, I used to love salad, but now I just look at it and I'm like, you know what? It's because you eating pasta for 2 weeks like crazy, and so it's not your fault. You do want salad, but have to get your microbiome wanting salad. Right now you've got all that pasta bacteria go and feed me pasta, give me that dopamine and serotonin neurotransmitter hit. Like it's not that you don't love, she's like, do I not love salad? I'm like, no, your bacteria doesn't love salad.
Right. Right.
Like we
Yes.
are controlled by what's living in our gut,
So you brought
in
up
our brain.
microbiome.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about, let's talk about it, because I know when the doc talks about it, he talks on a doctor level, and a lot of times I'm like,
Yeah, like
let's talk about the microbiome and what it is and what it affects.
okay. Well, you have microbiome like all over your body, just so you know.
Right.
It's everywhere. But in your gut, it's really just the host of the bacteria. I mean, I'm just kind of simplifying this,
Yes.
it's all different bacteria. You have good bacteria, you have opportunistic bacteria, you could have, pathogens, like yeast, molds, fungus, like all of these things that make up this ecosystem in your gut. And they crave things. So if you start, I don't know if you've ever noticed, like if you switch your diet and you start eating a totally different type of food, a lot of times you start to crave that food. And that's because you're populating your ecosystem with bacteria that want that food. So the more things that you eat that are bad, the more you're adding to that bad ecosystem. And the more things that you eat that are good, you're adding to that good ecosystem. And so that's a lot of times what controls our cravings, but it can also control, that controls our brain, right?
Mhm.
But the thing is, certain bacteria send neurotransmitters to our brain, like I was saying, like the biome of wheat and gluten. I'm just using that as an example. That, well, they call it a comfort food because you're getting a comfort dopamine or serotonin hit, and that's why, like, oh, I just need that croissant to make me feel better. Well, that's true, because when you eat it, you're actually getting a neurotransmitter hit to make you feel better. And so, you think you're controlling your diet, but you're not. You're basically just feeding that bad bacteria. And when I say good and bad, I just want to clarify that it's what's good and bad for you. Like everybody is an individual, and there is no one diet for anyone. It really, we have to test. We have to test and not guess, and find out what is good for you and what is good for you in the moment. That can change.
Yes.
But really, the microbiome, it's important to know that they definitely control your cravings, they control your brain. And I think the most fascinating thing with it is when you talk about elimination diets. Like, I'm kind of a little bit over elimination diets right now, because when the studies right now, it's like when you eliminate all these foods without testing to see if you're sensitive to them, you're basically depleting the microbiome to actually digest them. And so then when you introduce that food back in, you think, oh no, I can't eat that anymore. But really, it's that you may not be able to digest it once the way you could before. So there's so much, I mean, it's just a really fascinating field.
Right. It is. It absolutely is. And I just, I still, when you were saying that about the gut, like that was new to me, and that what you feed, then it kind of craves it. Like I didn't
Yeah.
realize that. And so now I get it. Like I used to have this huge sugar thing. Like I would always have a bag of Oreo cookies, and I had to have sugar 24/7, and I went for a couple of weeks really without eating it. And every once in a while I kind of like, oh, I needed some chocolate. But now it's potato chips. It's like this salty, but I started eating them, and it's like it's become a beast. I go,
Yeah.
I can eat a freaking pot of potato chips in literally like a day to 2 days, and then I'm craving them again, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what is that? And I'm attributing it to the salt, but that's not what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, when it comes to potato chips, there are things in them to make you crave them.
Right, right.
Salt crunch, I mean, they like engineer them, for you to crave them. But yes, it's partly that your microbiome, but it's also those kinds of things, and especially the sugar, or,
Mhm.
That's giving you that neurotransmitter hit, and then you start to crave the hit,
Yes.
the comfort, how it makes you feel, and that's that gut brain connection as well.
Yeah, because I've gotten on this bad. I'm just telling all my bad stuff on here. I found this. I think it's called Nutso butter, and it's
Oh, I love that stuff.
oh my gosh, it's so addictive. Yeah, I love it, love it, love it. But what I do is I take my spoon, I get a little bit of the nut butter, and then I dip it in these little vegan chocolate chips,
Oh my god.
like a Reese's peanut butter.
Yeah, that sounds delicious.
Right? And I like I literally I come home from work and I'm craving it. I am craving it. And I'm like, is there something addictive in this? But now it's making sense. Like it's I got on a kick and then when I tried to stop, it's like it's calling my name. I can constantly
Right.
Yeah.
But again, I think with that, you're craving how it makes you feel,
Yeah.
like it, yeah, I'm sorry, but that is delicious. But it's not just that it's delicious that you're wanting it. It's like you're coming home and you want it to like,
Uh-huh.
right?
It's like
Like now
somebody's glass of wine.
yes, yeah, you've associated with the calming.
Yeah.
But and that's a lot of times it's just breaking that cycle and changing the habits and getting people to make small changes with, I mean, that's good. This is a good thing with the microbiome. Like once you start to understand it and you can make those small changes, that actually will help you crave, other foods. I'm like
Right.
that was so when I was trying to make changes, I just ate a bunch of celery because I wanted crunchy, like, instead of potato chips. And so I just ate like a whole, like I would eat whole heads of celery, and then I just started craving the salad. When
Yes.
we tried to do that, she was like, "No."
She's like, let me think about
I'm
that.
like, "Okay, I'll come up with recipes for you, I guess, if you're not
Right.
going to eat salad."
Right. Well, and it's interesting now that you're saying this too. When I went vegan, and
Mhm.
it was not a diet that I had. I mean, there were a lot of foods on there that I had never eaten. And as I started it, I started craving more and more and different vegetables, and certain ones just
Mhm.
really were like, oh my God, that is amazing. And everything tasted so amazing. And now I
Mhm.
get why that would happen. Like, that makes total sense. And
Mhm. And
yeah.
actually, vegan and vegetarian or people who don't eat vegetables, as much, like it's a really good point to know that and to talk about this elimination diet thing, because when let's say you're vegetarian and you want to introduce something back in, and you're like, oh, I can't eat it. Oh my gosh, I just don't feel good. Like that's it. Well, that might just be because you lost the ability to digest it, and you have to get through that. I mean, for some people, obviously it's a choice, it's an ethical choice. It's what, that's cool. But like for people who want to introduce it back in, just so you have to like kind of get over the hump. It doesn't mean that you can't eat that food forever. And I just think that's really important to talk about with the microbiome, because so many people, I think, have eliminated something and wanted to introduce it, and then they tried and they were like, oh my gosh, never again, you
Right.
know? And I think that is just important to know, because a lot of times it is healthy for certain people. Like for me, and for instance, since I was a vegetarian and I thought I was healthy, I thought I was doing what was right, but it ended up costing me a lot. It ended up giving me an autoimmune disorder because I didn't do it properly. And I think a lot of people are out there
Right.
doing that. And I just
So
think
when I
that's
went
really
to,
important to talk about, so
yes.
people think like, oh, I tried it and it was a nightmare and I can't ever do it again. That's
Right.
not necessarily the case.
So, okay, so you were talking about the testing and that, and I know that Doc is a big fan of that as well, in that he likes to know if there are certain foods that are going to upset you or you really shouldn't be eating. And I remember doing that, and it was like lima beans. It was like four things, and I'm like, those aren't really anything I eat anyway, but everything else was good to go.
There's sensitivity tests, and some of them are really looking at the spike, the inflammation spike that it's giving you. Let's say, like, is it spiking your cortisol? So, if it's doing that, then it's going to change your hormones, and it's not good. Um, so it's like, is this food putting you in a fight or flight response? And if it is, that can show up as, and that's the high cortisol, but that could show up as stress and inflammation in your body, show up in your brain, it could show up on your skin, it could show up as digestion problems, it could show up as joint pain, joint and like achiness. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that it could show up. So it kind of depends on, correlating like what's going on with you and what's happening with those foods right now. And once you get things under control and you're not in this hyper state of inflammation, then you probably could try to reintroduce those foods. And then, it depends on, is it a legume? Like a lot of people have that with like legumes and, were they prepared properly? Or even looking at, is it the food, or is it that this is a mycotoxin on the food? Like a lot of times people are sensitive to, let's say, coffee or grains, and it's not that, it's that the product that they were eating was moldy.
Oh.
And that they're sensitive to that.
Oh, wow.
So it goes really deep. There's a lot of analyzing this, and that's part of what I mean by like working with somebody for months, because you really have to like pay attention to that and help them figure out so that they can introduce, when is the right time to introduce these foods, if ever. But usually you can with this kind of, because it's not an allergic reaction.
Right.
It's or what bacteria do we need to give you that's going to help support that food, or digestive enzyme, so there's a lot into that.
A lot of people do diets and the keto thing, and there's always some diet that is a big deal today.
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest mistake people make when it comes to diets or switching the way they eat?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. I actually just tell people I meet on the street this answer. I'm like, I know you didn't ask me, but I'm just going to tell you this.
Right.
Okay, I think the biggest mistake is going on a diet or change, basically
Right.
change the entire way that you eat without knowing what's right for you. And I think that honestly, I think food sensitivity testing is one of the most important things that anybody can do to invest in their health, because we don't realize that we're walking around in a state of inflammation. They're like, well, I don't have these problems. And I'm like, that's because your body is so inflamed that you can't tell the difference between a headache or a pimple, or, like that is your body trying to tell you something, And so I think the biggest mistake is that people go on these diets and they could be eating things that they think are healthy, but they're not healthy for them. It's not individualized for them. And then not being able to really pay attention to the messages that they're getting, the signals that our body's trying to tell us. Like, hey, I'm giving you a headache because I really don't like that you're eating blah, blah, blah. Like, so I'm going to just give you a headache, and you're supposed to read your mind. You're supposed to be able to trust your gut, which you can't do.
Yeah, and you have no idea what it's saying to you because you're not listening to it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially with the keto thing, like people metabolize differently at different rates, and keto is for women, it'll help you, but it's not great long term. Like, for your hormones, women, and that's the other thing, is women and men are different, and the way that we eat needs to be different, and we have to pay attention to that. So
yeah, and I completely agree with you on that. It's an individualized plan. There is no one size fits all. There is no pill that somebody can take. Your body is your body, and it's completely different than anybody else's. And the way it reacts to food or certain foods is so completely different. And I go, it's one of those things that I think once you know it, you want to share it, because you know it will make a huge difference for someone's health and mental health. It's not just your health we're talking about. It really is the brain gut connection. And you don't really even know you're in that like foggy, weird place at all.
yeah.
Yeah.
No. And I mean, sometimes we start thinking of that like, yeah, I have foggy brain, but we just brushed it off as my brain will be fine tomorrow.
Yeah, I didn't sleep
or
very good last night. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't sleep, or we try to pinpoint all of these things, or my back hurts because of the way I was sitting. Well, yeah, or it could be that you're eating all of these nightshades and they're triggering joint and back pain. I mean,
Right.
it's to stop making excuses for things that we don't know. So
Absolutely. Well, what do you think are some things that somebody could do starting today if they're like, okay, I know I'm having some brain fog. I know I'm struggling with memory. I know my gut is a mess or I'm bloated or, they're starting to recognize that there's something going on. But what could somebody do today to start making a difference?
yeah. Well, call me. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, call
No,
Jamie, please.
just call me. Okay, but for real, I would say keeping a food, mood, and poo journal.
Oh,
We start with, it's like, keeping a journal, and it really starts to help you get in tune with your body. So I ate this, and how did I feel before? How did I feel after? And was I stressed when I was eating? Like, was I eating in a calm state, or was I just running around, trying to eat real quick before I had to go back to work, and then how did I feel later? And then how were my bowel movements for the day? So starting to make those connections between what I'm eating and how it affects my mood, my energy, and my poop, all of that. I mean, that really does put you in a state of trying to understand your gut brain connection. And I think it's something simple and it's free. And then once you start to see that, like once you start to see, okay, um, I ate a egg McMuffin for breakfast, and at 8 a.m. and at noon, I just, I had no energy. I was starving, like I just didn't feel good. I was gassy. Okay, well, you're gonna start to make connections like, okay, maybe tomorrow I'm not gonna eat that. So tomorrow I'm gonna have some nut butter on some gluten-free toast. Or I'm gonna have an avocado and I'm gonna have some eggs. How did I feel like at 12 o'clock today? Was there any difference? Or I'm getting migraines, like what am I eating? What am I doing? Really just making those kinds of connections. I think that's the first thing, is that getting aware of what your food, your mood, your energy, and your bowel movements are. And
right.
then, start making adjustments to that.
No, I like that.
The easiest thing.
Mm-hmm. I know, I like that. Food, mood, and poo. And you're right. How many days do you think somebody should really take a look at that? Like 10 days, 14?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, definitely 10 for sure. And just I mean, a month is great, but really the more you do it, and it's funny because I always have my clients, that's the first thing they do, even before I give them any advice. And within day 4, they're like, oh, I've already made all these connections. And I'm like, great, because you're paying attention to yourself, and
Yes.
then it's easier for me to have to tell, okay, so stop eating, this and that. They're like, I already know I need to stop eating that, and I feel so much better, but within a few days, if you're making changes, but it also depends on your mindset and how open you are to change. It depends on the state of inflammation that your body is actually in, for you to, how long that's going to take for you to be aware of these things, the communications. But for the most part, some little changes besides paying attention to what you're eating and how it's making you feel is that try to always eat in a relaxed, I know this is hard, but paying attention to your food and being relaxed, because you can't digest your food properly if you're in a state of stress.
Right. So, like
You got
mindful eating,
Yeah, yeah.
being present.
And yeah, like if or not watching TV, as you eat,
Hmm.
not on your phone. Like actually, like I'm just going to take a moment for me, and I'm going to enjoy my food and be present with my food. Or if I'm with somebody else, talk to them, eat slowly, not rush through it. I mean, we are fueling our body, and then the way that we do that makes a difference. If you're stressed out, your body's in, flight mode. It doesn't think it needs to digest anything.
Right.
It's like, I need to worry about stress right now, not what you're putting in your mouth. you know,
Right.
so,
We'll worry
yeah.
about that later.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's honestly part of functional medicine. Like, it all comes back to that kind of that stress. I mean, it all comes down to stress and how the gut brain, how stress affects your digestion and what's going on in your body. Because if you have, it affects your hormones and everything.
Yeah.
If you're always stressed, your hormones are going to shut down too. You're
Yeah.
gonna, because they're like, we don't need to do anything but run. So we don't need to have sex hormones. Yikes. We don't need to, I mean, it's everything. It affects your entire, hormone cascade.
Yes. Before we go, talk a little bit about your website, your Facebook group, so that people know how to connect with you.
Okay, so website, I mean, Gut Goddess. I'm actually creating a brand new Gut Goddess community group on Facebook. There's going to be tips about the gut-brain connection. There's also going to be, we're celebrating a goddess weekly, so you could, submit like, this is my picture, and this is what makes me feel like I'm in my power, and then we can do some sessions, and then I can post you and celebrate you on my Instagram. I want women supporting women, or Jamie@gutgoddess.com, and I'm here for you.
Okay, awesome. Well, that will be it for us today. Thank you all for tuning in, watching, listening, and we're going to sign off for now. So stay curious, my friends. Stay curious. Bye.
Bye.